Under the looming shadow of the groundbreaking original series, Star Trek The Next Generation had a huge mountain to climb to establish its own identity and prove its worth against Captain Kirk and his crew, whose fans were reticent at the prospect of such a change. In a deliberate move against the rough and ready space Lothario of Kirk was new Captain Jean-Luc Picard, a measured and stoic officer who valued reason and ethics above all other considerations. Not wanting fans to be turned away by a car-sipping tea and debating morality, the writers created a successor to Kirk's bombastic character with Commander William Riker, Picard's first officer, and a tall glass of suave trombone-blasting charm. Going on to become a fan favourite once he grew the beard, that is, Riker holds a special place in fans' hearts with his wry smile, quick wit, and natural way with women of all species. Debuting in 1987 and still making appearances today, Riker's extensive history is full of a fair few bits of trivia and little-known facts to whet the appetites of deep Trek nerds, and these are just some of them. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with Trek Culture, and here are 10 things you didn't know about Will Riker. Number 10. William Decker, the Proto-Riker. Following the conclusion of the original series, fans were desperate for more, and Paramount heeded the call by immediately putting Phase 2 into production. Taking the DNA of the original series and pushing it forward, the show was to follow a refitted Enterprise and pair old favourites with brand new cast members, as the Enterprise continued its mission across space after the curtailing of its first run. Whilst James Kirk would carry on in the captain's chair, Leonard Nimoy declined to revive the role of Spock, and new First Officer William Decker was created. When Phase 2 was summarily canned due to poor advertising prospects, elements from the Decker character were repurposed for Commander Riker, including his first name, role aboard the ship, general character demeanour, and even a lost love subplot with a fellow crew member, which carried over to Riker's romance with Deanna Troi. Elements of Phase 2 were incorporated into the original motion picture, including Decker, but had it gone ahead, we may have seen a totally different Will Riker on the bridge of the Enterprise D. And who wants to live in a world like that? Number 9. Jonathan Frakes had some serious competition. Although fans would struggle to think of anyone other than Jonathan Frakes playing the role of Riker, during the casting process in The Next Generation's gestation, he was just one of a horde of actors considered for the role. Notable candidates included Billy Campbell, James Horan, Christopher McDonald, Eric Pierpoint, Eric Anderson, and Vaughn Armstrong, who would each go on to appear in other Star Trek roles across the series, as well as recurring Star Trek stalwart Jeffrey Combs. After 7 auditions over 6 weeks, having to impress both Roddenberry and various studio execs, Frakes was given the role and Star Trek history was made. Number 8. They named him after Kirk. Sort of. In the earliest days of his conception, the character of Riker was designed to be analogous of Captain Kirk, as a way of easing fans' transition into the new series. Parallels were obvious in his demeanour, particularly in a romantic sense, and attitude. But to go one step further, writers decided to give him the same middle initial. The T was established early on as a means of creating this link to James Tiberius, although it would be nearly 6 years later that writers settled upon Thomas and introduced the duplicate Lieutenant Riker in the episode Second Chances. Prior to this, the production staff had been discussing potential names for years, including Thelonious after jazz musician Thelonious Monk and the more baffling Tecumseh. As great as a name reflecting Riker's trombonistic love of jazz would have been, settling on Thomas ended up being the simplest choice, and after 6 years of waiting, fans finally found out what that mysterious T was all about. Number 7. The Sybil crossover. Airing between 1995 and 1998, Sybil was a sitcom revolving around the life of Sybil Sheridan, a struggling actress and single mother trying to make her big break in Hollywood after years of failure. So why is this relevant to a Star Trek list? Well, because our bearded hero may be in it, that's why. In the episode Starting on the Wrong Foot, Sybil lands herself a role in a Star Trek ripoff, which happens to include none other than Jonathan Frakes himself among its cast. After establishing that this is in fact Frakes himself, the pair work closely together, and he forms an attraction to the beleaguered protagonist. Arriving at her home at the end of the episode, she refuses to let him in, so Frakes leaves, by requesting to be beamed out. Whilst likely a silly bit of fan service from a slightly cheesy 90s sitcom, the possibility that this could be the eager commander himself, vying for some time-displaced action, is not beyond the realms of possibility. Number 6. Rikers Smile. As with any television series, the characters of the next generation changed over time as the writers learned more about them and began to mold stories to fit more complex, nuanced personalities. This led to a certain amount of clunkiness in Season 1, and some character choices can be looked back on as plainly bizarre. Contrary to the boyish glint in the eye that Riker has in later seasons, the Enterprise's first officer in Season 1 took a much sterner approach to life. In an interview with Sci-Fi Wire, Frakes explained that this was at the behest of Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, who wanted the character to be played with what he referred to as a Gary Cooper Midwestern glint, not a scowl, but not smiling. Thankfully, Frakes eventually managed to find some middle ground, and as writers incorporated his love of jazz and roguish demeanor into his character, we were all treated to those pearly whites that dazzled ladies across the galaxy. Number 5. The Minecraft Skin. Long after Riker has disappeared from the public consciousness, his presence is still keenly felt by many within the Star Trek fandom, and is still finding its way into popular culture in the most bizarre ways. Starting in 2008, Yogscast Limited is a British entertainment company operating on YouTube and Twitch, producing video game-related videos and assorted content for millions of fans. Beginning with World of Warcraft, the company grew its fanbase to a huge extent with their playthroughs of Minecraft, and it was here that they would add a little dash of Trek to their colossal fanbase. As the Minecraft games increased in popularity, they gradually became a semi-improvised comedy drama named Shadow of Israfel. Needing an iconic look for his character of Zephos, co-creator Lewis Brindley decided to go for an iconic style of black shoulders, red torso, dark hair, and one hell of a beard. It was through this that the custom Riker skin was created, and although the look has now become more personalized, he will always have a bit of Riker in his DNA. Number 4. He has been in more Star Treks than any other character. Cameos are always a great way to pique fan interest as spin-offs and tie-ins begin to filter their way through a franchise's history, and Star Trek is no exception. Whilst the likes of Sarek and Montgomery Scott would grace the set of the next generation with their presence, one of the Enterprise D's crew would make popping up in other shows something of a sport. Whilst other cast members would maybe show up once in a spin-off show or jump ship to become full cast members like Worf and O'Brien in Deep Space Nine, Jonathan Frakes would reprise his role as Riker in no less than 5 other shows. First showing up as transporter clone Thomas Riker in Deep Space Nine's Defiant, the real Will Riker would then go on to return in Voyager's Death Wish at the behest of Q, as well as enjoying an extended arc as the USS Titan's captain in Lower Decks, coming to the rescue of the titular officer in Picard, and controversially playing protagonist in the much-despised Enterprise finale, These Are the Voyages. Holding the record for appearing over the most shows in the franchise, it's very unlikely that anybody will dethrone the familiar commander anytime soon. Number 3. Thomas Riker. Much alluded to in this list so far, Will Riker's life was turned upside down in the 6th season episode Second Chances, when he returns to the planet Navala 4 to retrieve scientific data lost after evacuation 8 years earlier. Beaming down, Riker is shocked to find a survivor who looks just like him, claiming to be Will Riker. Trapped by a distortion field years prior, a transporter malfunction duplicated Riker's pattern, leaving the stranded lieutenant on the planet whilst an identical version was beamed aboard the rescue ship and went on to become the Riker we watched for the previous 6 years. Owing to resentment and different lived experiences, the Rikers immediately clash, and the stranded duplicate, now taking his middle name of Thomas, elects to leave the Enterprise and strike out on his own, eventually joining the Marquis terrorists. This was not always the plan, however, as writers originally toyed with the idea of killing Will Riker off and having Thomas join the crew for the rest of the show's run, promoting Data to First Officer and placing the new Riker at the helm. As shocking and bold as such a plan would have been, the production crew did not want to squander a character they had invested so much in. Thomas would make a return in Deep Space Nine as a villainous member of the Marquis, and we would go on to enjoy the OG Riker for many years to come. Number 2. The real reason behind the beard. For all its promise, there were certainly some clunky elements to the Next Generation's first season, including the botched character arc and death of Lieutenant Yar, the groan-inducing racial insensitivity of Code of Honor, and that episode where everybody, including the androids, get a bit frisky. It's fair to say that the show was not firing on all cylinders going into Season 2, but 2 key things about the show were about to change. Whilst jumping the shark is a popular phrase for describing a failing show running out of ideas, coined from Happy Days when Fonzie literally stunt jumped over a shark, the phrase growing the beard is less well known, as a concept for when a perceived increase in quality corresponds with a character growing a beard. Sure enough, season 2 onwards proved to be a roaring success for the new Trek show, and all of these episodes included a now bearded Riker. Whilst we can't guarantee that the two events are related, their concurrences has led to many people referring to growing the beard as Riker's beard. In universe, Riker explains that he thinks it makes him look more his own age, but Frakes has gone on to say that he simply dislikes shaving and that Roddenberry liked the look so much on day 1 filming season 2 that he decided to write it in. Did this beard save the show? Maybe. Does anyone prefer the beardless Riker? No. Number 1. The Riker Maneuver. Of his many accolades and achievements, one thing Captain Picard will always be remembered for is the Picard Maneuver, a technique of jumping to warp for a split second to create a duplicate after image of your ship and disorient the enemy during battle. Much like his captain, Commander Riker had his own maneuver, one which has delighted and baffled fans for years. The Riker Maneuver, as it has been affectionately titled, refers to Riker's curious habit of mounting chairs as if they were a wandering steed, placing his hand upon the back and vaulting one leg over and swinging the other round to follow. Nobody on the Enterprise appeared to bat an eyelid at this frankly bizarre way to approach the mundane task of sitting. Although no in-universe reason was given for this peculiar idiosyncrasy, the maneuver itself stems from a back injury sustained by Frakes during a previous career moving furniture. This injury also accounts for Riker's tendency to sit forward in his chair on the bridge or stand with an arm or leg propped up on nearby pieces of set. Posted on Reddit and confirmed by Will Wheaton, the move has become somewhat of a running gag within Trek, and now that you know, you will never not see it. And that concludes our list. If you think we missed something, then do let us know in the comments below, and while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. We are on the road to 200,000 followers here on YouTube, and with your help we can meet that goal by the summer. Just don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Also head over to Twitter and follow us there, and I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with Trek Culture. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to boldly go where no one has gone before.